And there we'll just kind of pop that button and say we got it. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. Today we have Mr. Zarius Walker. He's an advocate for people with disabilities, and we're going to be talking about his personal success story. At this point, I'd like to hand it over. Mr. Walker, if you would introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Zarius Walker, and as you stated previously, I'm an advocate for people with disability. I've been a person with a disability for my entire life. I specifically have cerebral palsy.
Well, we appreciate you being with us here this morning, and I want to introduce you to the community at Alabama Care. We're in talks where you're going to create some content and be an anchor with Alabama Care, and we wanted to do kind of an introductory here. But we met when you were recently speaking at the Disability In Conference. So if you could just talk about the Disability In, what the organization is and the conference and your experience there.
The Disability In, they create awareness and different job avenue opportunities for people with disability who otherwise may not be aware of the different type of job opportunities that are presented throughout the state for Alabama. They also create content, and you know, it's just a good networking tool because resources is hard to come by, especially even in 2022. Like, resources is hard to come by, especially if you're not walking into the shoes every day of being a person with disability. So as far as my experience, it was great. Anytime I get to run my mouth is great. But but as far as like just seeing the turnout and how people were interested and how people were really taking notes and listening, that's something that I paid attention to. People was really jotting stuff down and little memos. So hopefully they were able to take some of that stuff and apply it to their company or business when they were left back home.
Yeah, you had a great presentation. You were on the stage with, I believe it was 8 other people, 9 total, you know, talking about your journey, answering questions there. So, and then after you were on stage, you came back and I was sitting at a table. I think I was eating lunch actually. And I was like, Mr. Walker, I got a quick question for you. Would you be interested in doing some Facebook Live? And we linked up, and that was, oh geez, when was that conference? 3 weeks ago, I guess?
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks ago. I think it was like October 19th to be exact.
Yeah. So we've been back and forth, and glad to have you on today. So speaking of, you know, we are a kind of a news agency, disability news network. We focus all of our content on the community. And you mentioned you were born with CP. If you could just take us through a little bit of your journey as a young kid, and go ahead.
Well, starting out, when I was born, I was, you know, as I said in my presentation earlier, but for those who don't know, I was 2 pounds and 3 ounces. I was like 4 to 6 months premature. I spent the first month, I spent my first 2 months after birth in the ICU. So my mom went home before I did. A couple months later, the doctor issued me discharge papers and I was able to go home. But few months down the line, my mom noticed that I wasn't making the developmental milestones that a normal baby should be making at that age. So she decided to go look into it. Now, mind you, this is a single mother in the 90s. So information back then wasn't at the click of a finger. You had to go search for it. So she was in the doctor's office and she was trying to get me checked up, and she was trying to figure out why I wasn't crawling like the rest of the kids that were my age. So at this time, she didn't know what I had. She just knew I was different. And so she was in the doctor and she was like, she overheard two older women talking, and they were saying about the Shriners Hospital. And they were saying how the Shriners help kids and young adults with disabilities, and they operate on them, do therapy and stuff like that to better their quality of life as dealing with a person with disability. And the catch with this was everything was free of charge. Hospital care, the food, even traveling back and forth was all free of charge. So my mom, she took the chance and they diagnosed me with cerebral palsy at the age of 2 years old.
Now I haven't heard of Shriners Hospital before. What part of the state is that?
Shriners is everywhere. The one particular, the particular one that I went to was Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh, in South Carolina. So you're not originally from Alabama.
Yeah, I am, but we don't have a Shriners here. We don't have that type of hospital here. So but they do have a shuttle base that's stationed here. So we took the shuttle and they drove us to Greenville.
Gotcha. And where are you living now? We talked about this at the conference, but you're center of the state, correct?
Yeah, I'm still in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah. Okay. Now, during that time when you were kind of young and going to Shriners, do you remember any of that?
Yes. Yes.
If you could talk a little bit about the emotions you were feeling there and your side of that story.
Okay. Now I'm gonna put a little disclaimer out there. My emotions they weren't as pleasant as people might paint the picture. Once I got old enough to verbalize how I felt, I'm gonna be honest, I had a real disdain for my disability because I didn't understand why out of all the people in my family, I'm the only one that had to have cerebral palsy. So I grew up with kind of like a chip on my shoulder. I just wanted to be a normal kid. I didn't want to have the surgeries. I didn't want to have the therapy. I didn't want to have to, do the annual checkups. I felt like I should have been granted a normal life. But as fate would have it, I have cerebral palsy. So I have to make lemons out of lemonade, right? So, but as far as like, as a kid growing up in the Shriners, it was great. Like it was, they tried their best not to make it seem like you're in a hospital. When I say we had 4th of July barbecues, they brought show dogs to the hospital. They brought the Carolina Panthers to the hospital. They brought Ronald McDonald to the hospital. They took us to the Ronald McDonald house. It's the best non-hospital hospital I've ever been to.
Now, I think that's awesome that they're doing those things. Is the first time I've heard about them. One of the things that you mentioned at the conference was that you didn't really grow up around others that had disabilities in your family, in your community. And it just sounded like when you were at Shriners, you got a sense of, like, I've heard this story from individuals that are deaf. When they go to a deaf university, it's like, it's totally for them. Everything's designed right around them. Did you kind of get that feeling when you were at Shriners with others?
Yeah, I did. Like we all shared a special connection. Even though outside of the hospital, some of us probably didn't keep in contact like that, but we all shared that sense of belonging. Like we felt like, this was meant for us. Like nobody could take it away.
And so after, when did you stop going to Shriners?
I stopped going. That's an interesting story. I stopped going to Shriners when I was 17.
17. You said it was an interesting story. Tell me about it.
Because when I was 14, I was on the verge of having arthritis in my knees because my stents was so low, and they had been trying to get me to have surgery for the past 2 years. But once you reach the age of 16 at the Shriners, you're able to tell them whether you want to have the surgery or not. Okay. So my 2-year checkup came, and it was like, look, this is the state of your legs. We suggest that you take this surgery into consideration, because without it, your life is going to be very difficult living with cerebral palsy. And at this time, I'm 15 turning 16, so I'm finna start high school. Like at that time I was 16 finna turn 17. So I'm speeding it up a little bit. I'm 16 finna turn 17 because they finally got it through my head that this is something I have to do. It's no holding it off anymore. It's either be confined to a wheelchair or have the surgery and have limited mobility, but still be able to walk if I need to. So I chose to still be able to walk if I need to option. But I was 16 and this is summertime, so this is like big for a high school student, you know, like 16, 17, you trying to figure out who you're gonna take to prom and
Yeah.
you trying to plan your year out. But instead, I'm prepping for surgery. And when we went up there, they was telling us, they was like, we're gonna break this bone, because they always give you a general idea of what the surgery is. So what they did was they broke my tibia bone, that's the bone that's in front of your leg. They broke that and broke my foot and turned it, because my feet, I don't know if you can see my hands, but before the surgery, my feet used to be like this. So they broke my bone and turned my feet to align with my leg. And they put 6 screws in it, and they pretty much reconstructed my whole entire leg from my fibula on up. As far as straightening it goes.
When you were waking up from surgery, was it just immense pain?
Yes. I was in the because see, at that time I was a vet at having surgery, so I kind of knew, like all the younger kids who was having, they would use me to go talk to the younger kids who was having surgery. Yeah. Because I already knew the ins and outs about having surgery, so they would use me to encourage them, to let them know that it was gonna be okay. You know, I've been through it several times. But what was your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, when you're talking with, you know, some younger kids that are approaching that surgery, what is your recommendation to them? Is it to go through and have that surgery? Excuse me.
Well, my advice was to them, honestly, was no one can tell you how to be a person with a disability. Only you know how to be a person with a disability, because you ultimately have to be the one to walk in your shoes. So if you yourself is not right with the surgery, I suggest you take a second. Don't just agree. Because you might resent yourself if you agree to it and it doesn't work out. So take a second, weigh the pros and cons of having a surgery with your family members, because they're going to be the ones that look after you while you're going through the healing process, and see if the pros outweigh the cons of having the surgery. Yeah. And most of the time, the kids, I will be at the lunch hall, and most of the time the kids they'll give me the word and be like, they had the surgery. You convinced them to have the surgery. And that meant a lot to me, because when I was having my surgeries, I didn't have nobody that was in my same shoes to convince me to have my surgery. My parents were just like, we want a better life for you. This is what it is. This is what they're telling us. So you having the surgery.
No, it warms me to hear that you're doing some of that peer advocacy for others that are approaching that, because it can be, you know, even just that adolescence, kind of the mind frame of young adults, teenagers, and some uncertainty there. But to have someone that can kind of walk you through that process, that's, like you said, has been in your shoes. And it was definitely a success at Disability Inn. You know, I got to see that you're walking around, you know, and you have that mobility that if you wanted to, you can get around without the chair. And I think that's a big thing for others to see. Right. Now, you did mention that, you know, this is kind of summertime in high school. You don't want to think about this, but really your whole summer was around that surgery, and you can kind of miss out on being a young kid in the summer out of school. Were there other instances that you felt like you kind of missed out on, or almost to the point of discrimination?
Yes, yes. I actually, because I was the only one in now my family, before I say this, my family loves me to death. But because I was the only one with a disability inside my household, a lot of times I feel like an outcast because I'm the only one that's going through what I'm going. I can't just go outside and walk up the street to the gas station with my brothers and sisters or cousins or something like that. I have to wait for them to bring it back to me because it's too far of a walking distance. Or I can't just get up and go to the beach. I have to make sure that whatever beach we go to is accommodative.
I get stuck on that word all the time, dude.
Accommodative for my wheelchair, and so a lot of times I did opt out. I just didn't go because I didn't want to be a burden to anybody else. I didn't want to put the hassle on having somebody or my brothers or something like that have to take care of me while I'm on the trip, because I feel like now your trip is revolved around making sure that I'm okay. So now you're not having fun, and now I'm not having fun because I'm thinking about how you got to take care of me. So a lot of times I didn't go. As far as school, plenty. I'm gonna tell you, I wanted to play wrestling, so I wanted to be a wrestler so bad.
Really? Wrestling?
Yeah, like I wanted to do collegiate wrestling so bad, but because I always knew I had immense upper body strength, so I always knew that my upper body strength was real solid. So I was like, man, I want to slam somebody. Like like I think I'll be good at it, and the school that I was attending at the time, they didn't have parameters in place for adaptive sports for people with disabilities. They didn't even have policies in place for that. So nobody has ever heard, at this time, nobody's ever heard of nothing like that. Not in Montgomery. And the school denied me because they said I would be a liability if I got hurt. Even if I signed a waiver saying that I wasn't gonna sue, they still said that I would be a liability. So I got turned down because of that. But you keep going.
I was going to say, I think you would have done very well in wrestling. So I wrestled all the way through high school, and then I wrestled in college up in Pennsylvania. And have you ever heard of a gentleman whose name is Anthony Robles?
Yeah.
So he wrestled at Arizona State University, and he was a national champ, I think, at 125 pounds. And he, I think he's missing one of his legs. I'm not sure that the history there, but he's a national champ, the best in the United States at what he does. And that it hurts to hear that the local high school here wouldn't give you that opportunity, because I've seen, dude, your upper body is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that fear, it's that human fear of not knowing. And sometimes that fear is stronger than anything else that you could possibly think of. So I can't say that I blame them, because I understand, because if I was in a situation like that and I had a kid and I didn't have a disability and I had a kid coming up to me saying that they wanted to wrestle, and the first thing I'm gonna think about it, well, if he gets slammed the wrong way, we in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Just from a school standpoint, so I can't blame.
So you didn't wrestle, but you were still really interested in being physically active. And you wanted to have kind of that creative outlet. So what, if it's not wrestling, what did you kind of get into there?
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you the story about how I ended up lifting weight. Everybody in my school, when I graduated elementary school, everybody in my junior high was talking about how strong everybody was trying to do weight training. All the boys was trying to do weight training. Because they was training for football. you know, it's 14, so you know, hormones raging. So everybody feel like they got to do their best to show how strong they is.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I said, well, I can't play football. I said, so I'm gonna go pick up me some weights. I said, I'm gonna show that I'm strong in another way. So I started picking up weights, and I just off a whim, I had no training, no parental supervision, nothing. I picked up a 8 pound and a 10 pound. I picked up an 8 pound because my right hand was weaker than my left. So my focus was to build my right hand so it could match my left. So once I got that down pat, I just used to shut the door and I used to go to work. I would come up with whole exercise regimens and stuff like that. And over time, I became known as the buff guy that's in the wheelchair. Like,
And so, how were you teaching yourself? Now, were you lifting at the school, or was it more home workouts?
This was home. This was
Oh my
home.
God, are you watching YouTube videos?
No,
Just
no.
whatever came natural.
This is natural instinct off of stuff that I have seen over time, and this is me going through therapy and seeing how different muscles work and different muscle groups. So it was a compound of information that I had gathered over scenarios that I've been through, and I just applied it.
Yeah. And you started seeing results. I mean, the cool thing about lifting is, you know, the next day how tough that workout was. You know, if you get a good workout in, especially on legs, I am not getting up from a seat.
Yeah. And man, but the thing is, working out gave me a lot of confidence.
Speak a little bit about that, being physically active and confidence and mindset.
Before I worked out, I'm gonna give you before I worked out, I was low confident because of my disability. I didn't think I could do much. I saw me how the rest of the world saw me, if that makes sense. And so I started working out. And when I started working out, I started to feel better about myself. I started to feel better about my situation. I started to think like, my lower half may not be strong, but if I can make my top half strong enough to compensate for my lower half being weak, I'll be okay. So that's the mindset that I went with. Now, that's a flawed mindset, but I'm gonna get to that later if we get a chance to, but it just increased my confidence. It made me more outgoing. It cleared my mind, helped my self-esteem, also helped me with girls.
It's amazing what even just one good workout can do. And there's science behind it. You know, the chemicals that go to your brain. It's always like, if you're having a bad day and you get a workout in, it can be a good day. If you're having a good day and you get a workout in, it could be a great day.
Yeah.
But I always notice, like, the great days that I've had, I'm doing some form of physical activity for at least 30 minutes. And it's really weird how that happens, but it does help. If you're in a funk, go to the gym.
It'll brighten you up.
It'll change that mindset. Now, you spoke a little bit there. You said before you started lifting, you had low confidence and you kind of saw yourself as others saw you. And I think that hits on something that I hear sometimes is limiting beliefs. And those can come from parents. They can come from, you know, your local community, but other people have limiting beliefs that they'll push on you. And it's tough. And we have to make sure that we don't allow those limiting beliefs to become our own. And I hear those in stories with moms where they may be at a park where there's a jungle gym and their son or their daughter has a disability and they're afraid for them to go out there and play. But they allow it. They go out there and their son or daughter is doing these amazing things that they never thought would have happened. And it's so important to allow all of us to kind of surprise each other. So you mentioned that you had a very strong family, and your mom you've mentioned a few times. Were there ever any circumstances where like your mom was like, no, I don't really want you to do that, and you're like, Mom, I'm doing this?
Yeah. Oh, plenty of times. Like, my mom, but see, my mom, she's always been like growing up, I wasn't allowed to say the word can't. I used to get in trouble. And I remember when I was going to do my first powerlifting competition. And my mom was so worried. Like she was like, I don't know, because if something happens, and I was like, I'm doing it. Like I was just like, I'm doing it. And once I made my mom, my parents, the way they raised me, my mom and my dad, once I made up in my mind that I'm doing something, they know I'm doing something. So even if I don't succeed, I'm gonna try to make it happen. And they have brought me to that belief. They have drilled that in me. And much to their dismay sometimes, they're the reason why I'm like that.
I love that they said they don't like the word can't. And because it really is whatever you think about, whether you think you can't or you think you can, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So taking that out of the vocabulary. So let's start talking. You mentioned the competition there. So it's one thing to do some home lifting and take care of yourself physically. It's another to actively compete. Tell me about that.
Um, Competing is scary. Like it's nerve wracking, but it's like an adrenaline rush at the same time. Because my first competition was in Mobile. Now I'm not gonna fib. These are untested people. So as you can probably tell, these people are huge. I'm talking about men and women. so I can only do the bench press. I can't do the cleans. I can't do the deadlift. So I only have 3 lifts. So I have to make those 3 lifts count, because that's the only competition that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are those 3 lifts? So you said bench?
Well, the bench, you get the bench, but then you get 3 lifts on the bench.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So like my first lift was, my opening lift was 240. My second lift probably be 256. My third lift, which is gonna be my heaviest lift, will probably be like 270. So
270, dude, that's huge.
Yeah, well, not 370. I was working till 370. I was trying to get 320, but I ended up maxing out at 285.
285. The most I've ever done is 225. I can't imagine 285. I just get 2 plates on the side, and I can't do that today, but that was back in the heyday. 285 is massive, man.
Yeah, it's it was one of the best times of my life, honestly, being a competitor, because it gave me a sense of purpose. Yeah. It helped me be as physically fit as I possibly could, because I had a goal to reach towards, rather than just working out just to be working out.
Now, are you current? Do you still stay active with the workouts?
Sometimes I've been taking a break, because I've been working out since I was 14.
Yeah.
So and I just recently stopped like 2 years ago, just to take a break, just to clear my head a little bit.
But you're still, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But I still have that passion and drive to want to work out.
Yeah. And you're still very physically fit. At the conference, you were doing push-ups. I can't do those. Those are like handstand push-ups. I can't do those. I don't have the balance to do that. And my shoulders all tore up. There's no way I could do that. For the audience, Zarius was doing push-ups on stage, kind of handstand push-ups. Is that the correct term there? Handstand push-ups?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was busting them out. And at one point, I think it was Anna or somebody said, okay, now you're just showing off.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny? I got the idea from those push-ups from a cartoon.
Which cartoon?
Like Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah.
So I just looked at it one day and I saw the main character doing it. I said, I wonder if I could do that. So I for about 3 to 4 weeks, I would just plank myself up on the wall and just hold myself there. And just to get used to the distribution of body weight and how different it is to hold your body weight upside down.
Yeah.
So I would just hold myself there for as long as I could until I failed, and then I fall down. And then the more I kept doing it, the more I got used to the stability. And then sooner or later, I was able to go up and down. I was like, oh, that's it.
That's it. So did you ever think about playing like another sport? I know here in Birmingham, we have like lakeshore and adaptive sports, those types of things. Are you interested in getting involved in anything like that?
Been in lakeshore a couple times, actually. I used to do wheelchair basketball. They tried me in wheelchair basketball. My hand-eye coordination for wheelchair basketball sucks because you have to dribble and wield the wheelchair at the same time. That part I've always had trouble doing.
I have the same trouble. I'm horrible at basketball. Wrestling, I know where I'm going. Basketball, I'm constantly looking at the balls. I'm dribbling it.
I did want to try my luck at archery, because they said I had pretty good upper body strength for archery, and they was like archery would have been perfect. When I went to the they call it the Endeavor Games, and this is a scouting event for the Paralympics.
Okay.
And it's held in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I think it's like every 6 months or every 2 years or something like that. And they told me, they was like, you'll be perfect for archery. You should give archery a try. And I was just so stuck on lifting weights. That was all I knew. That was what I was comfortable with.
Well, dude, you're young. You're what, 31?
Yeah.
So if you decide, it's not too late to get into it.
True. I do want to get back into that scene though.
I think it's important. So I wrestled, and then after college, did some other things, was doing like triathlons. And then I started playing badminton. And dude, you wouldn't realize how tough badminton is until you go up against like a 60-year-old dude that's been playing it forever. And he's got you moving all over the court. But then I picked up ice hockey. So now I play ice hockey. But I think it's important to continue. For me, I know it is, because I like being active, being involved in some type of sport around with others. I need that camaraderie.
Yeah.
I thrive off of that. So you've always been into being physically active sports. What about after high school? How was that transition time for you? Did you and work? Did you work in high school?
No. Okay. After high school, I was the typical high school graduate trying to figure out what my next step was. Did I want to go to college? Did I want to work? Only thing I knew at that time, I was broke. I needed some money. So, but I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I was like, at first, I wanted to be a physical therapist. At first, I wanted to be a physical therapist. I wanted to help other people that was in my same situation. Who better to tell? My philosophy was, who better to tell you the benefits of these exercises than somebody who's actually had to do them before? So I feel like with me being a person with a disability, I'll have a connection with the patients that no other therapist would have.
Yeah, kind of that peer support.
Yeah. So Then it went from being a physical therapist to being an occupational therapist. Because I was like, well, if I could help them as kids, then when they get to be an adult, it won't be so hard. So, but then I tried to go to a college, local college. They made it hard for me to get in. They discriminated against me off of my hair, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So and this was an all black school. So this was really crazy. But I kept trying. And I went to a camp. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I went to a camp called YLF, and it's held in Troy every year. And this is a youth advocacy camp for high school students who are thinking about going to college and want to know what the college experience is like. So they take these high school students and they put them in dorms for a whole week, and they're responsible for getting up on time. They're responsible for making it through to the lunchroom on time. They're responsible for themselves, which for a lot of them is different because a lot of them have their parents to make sure they do these things. But in this situation, they did. So I went to this college, and I ended up doing the push-ups at this camp, and they introduced me. Excuse me. They introduced me to a guy named Mays Marshall, and Mays he won shot put and javelin out of Tuskegee, Alabama for the Paralympics in the 2000s. And so he saw me do the push-ups, and he was like, he got a real deep voice, and he was like, oh, buddy, we gotta get you in the gym ASAP, because I ain't never seen nothing like that before. And so this is my journey after high school. Like this is what I ended up doing. And 2 years went by after that. Now, in those 2 years, I had been training at local gyms, but I still had to pay out of pocket to train. So the expense became too much. And I was good. Like I was I was really good. And I was always the smallest guy in my competition. And 2 years went by, and then I went, and then somebody contacted me named Kent Crenshaw. Kent Crenshaw is the board. He's the head of the board. He's a board of directors for Independent Rights and Resources in Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he graduated from Auburn. So he partnered with AUM to create this program called Warhol Fit. At the time, I'm training. I'm at peak physical condition. So he brought me in the meeting, and they was like, we need a face to launch this program. And Kent and Mays was like, we got your face. Zarius, do your push-ups. So just like that, I became the face of the program, because they needed a familiar face that they could get behind. Yeah. And who better than somebody who's from the same county? So
and so that position was just kind of created for you. It wasn't like you were going and trying to get hired, and it just worked out.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Doing what you love and creating up, work from that.
Yeah, it was. And it put my face in a lot of places that I did not know.
Are you still working with that organization?
No, they canceled Warhol Fit program, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Well,
unfortunately, like
there's always an opportunity. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
unfortunately, like the my last 2 years before I withdrew, they had canceled it before I withdrew, and that kind of it demotivated me actually
Hmm.
because I just wanted I wanted to just help people, you know. If I got to be the instrument for people to be motivated to help them pursue a better living standard than they normally would think they were capable of, I'll be there. But they canceled it because of funding and politics. You know how politics.
Yeah, it's frustrating sometimes, but that being said, there's always a possibility for something like that to be up and running again with you, kind of leading the push. And maybe, you're the director of an organization that really focuses on youth sports, for individuals in the community or whatever that looks like. So don't give up on that. It sounded like you're a little bit down about how that ended, but you can always bring that back.
Yeah, I will. I will. It just take time and the right opportunity.
So speak a little bit about, just kind of working in the importance of work. Even the Disability Inc. conference is all about, gaining employment and, those types of things. We just recently had a conversation with somebody about, losing some benefits if you're working full time. Have you ever run into anything like that?
Yes.
Tell me your experience because I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. I get so I used to get Social Security. A lot of people think Social Security and disability is the same thing. It's not. Disability is that's work that you've already accumulated before you had your entry. Social Security is that's what the government gives you to say, hey, he or she is disabled, they can't work. If they do work, they can only work up to 24 to 26 hours. If they go over that, then they have the right to cut your check. But see, they don't cut it. A lot of people think they cut it completely right off the bat. No, they don't cut it completely right off the bat. What they do is, like say for example, if they give you if your gross, I don't know why they go by gross, but if your gross is $600, they're gonna take that $600 that you made and divide that by two. What that $300 that's left over, that's your new check that you get from Social Security.
Hmm.
And the more you work and the more you make, the less and less it gets until they cut it off, unless you reduce your hours.
It sounds kind of like a disincentive to work. I think some people would think, well, why would I go to work, if that check's always going to be there?
But you know what? I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's almost like they're punishing us for wanting to be independent. It's almost like they're punishing us for wanting to live on our own. They stick us in a box and they tell us you can only make this much, you can only work this much, and you can only do this much. They even go so far as to tell us how much we can have in our bank account at one time. And me personally, I don't like the fact that somebody gets to tell me how much money I can make.
Mhm.
When everybody else gets to make the money as they please. If we
Yep. I don't like people telling me what to do. That's the truth. I don't like, I don't work well in a big corporate environment because I don't like having 10 bosses.
yeah. It's
Eh,
it's 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 I feel as though Social Security is good for the ones who absolutely need it. But I feel like because you have a lot of people that take advantage of the system and they take advantage of Social Security, it makes it hard for the ones who need it, and it also makes it hard for the ones who need it but can't get it. I've
I
been in I've been in rooms, Alex, where people have had missing arms and missing legs and still couldn't get Social Security.
Yeah, I've heard of stories like that, where the system's kind of being abused, and then I see, so I have a family member. She's my aunt, and
Mhm,
she's 58, and the doctors say mentally she functions at about an 18-month-old. So she's
mhm,
an adult child,
mhm,
and she needs someone with her at all times of the day. She has
mhm,
CP and cannot get around on her own. And I hear stories about people abusing the system, and it makes me mad when I think about those that really need that service, of who these
mhm,
services are really set up for.
mhm.
That's a systemic thing. I mean, I'm not going to solve that from my office, but it just makes me mad sometimes.
It'll get. I think it'll work itself out sooner than later.
Mm.
But I think more people are starting to notice that that's going on, and more people are starting to say something about that going on. Um, but I do recognize that Social Security is it's a help, but I think people get the wrong stigma when it comes to Social Security.
Mhm.
I think people feel like it's a cushion, it's a safety net. True, it's a safety net if you cannot work, period. Then I understand. Yeah, it's a safety net then. But if you can find some kind of work, some kind of receptionist, some kind of way to get out the house and work and make your own money, you won't regret it because it's a level of independence that comes with that. It's a level of freedom that comes with that. It's a level of, okay, even though I may have a disability, I can still get out there and be a productive member of society. I don't have to sit at home and just have somebody wait on me hand and foot. It does tremendous things for the psyche of a person with a disability if they get out there and work. You'll never know who you may meet just on the job. You may meet a person that's gonna be with you for the rest of your life, and you would have never known if you wouldn't have got up there and worked.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm hearing a lot of what you were saying about lifting in working, that it gives you confidence. It enables you to overcome challenges, and the working can give you that same type of confidence and feeling of worth, that you're getting out and being a productive member. I think it's very important. I am constantly trying to find more work, to do that. So tell us about your current work.
My current job, I'm an asset protection door host for Walmart.
Is that go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, and how long have you been working with that organization?
Um, 6 years together.
Everybody pretty cool that you work with?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I I I have no complaints except for the fact that I would like more money. But
Hey,
it's something that I actually got the job by doing those push-ups.
I was just
So
going to ask how you got that job.
I somebody seen me do the push-up off of YouTube, and they called me in the office and told me and had me speak to uh the employees, and he told me if I ever need a job to give him a call. And 2 years later, after I had that meeting, I gave him a call. I needed a job, and I got the job.
That's amazing. And just getting out there, putting yourself out there, making those relationships from friendships. Have you ever utilized any organizational services through like ADRS?
Yes, yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Can I be honest?
Yeah, please.
I don't like ADRS.
Why not?
This is my personal experience on it. ADRS helps who they want to help. I have been, my relationship with ADRS is very strained because everything that I have gotten, as far as even going to school, I paid for it. Even though I was on the contract with them, I still paid for it. I found a way to get my tuition paid. I found a way to get my dorm paid for. I found a way to get my food paid for, and books. And I found the only thing that ADRS did for me personally was teach me how to drive.
Oh, so that is a big one though. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you would have appreciated more of an effort on an individual basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's because the sales pitch that they give you when they introduce you to the organization is the sales pitch is A1, like that's an A plus 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 plus. But once you actually get into the organization, it's not like that. It's a lot of red tape. It's a lot of, we could do this only under this provision, or we could do this, but we can't do this, or we can't do this, we can't do this. And a lot of times, I wish I had more. I wish the counselors were more active in the clients' everyday life, because stuff happens every day. And I understand that they're human. I understand that they have hundreds of caseloads. I get that, but it's hard for us as consumers to be confident in an agency that we can barely get in contact with.
Yeah, that would decrease my confidence too if I had somebody that was helping me navigate, you know, and I was contracted with them and it was tough for them to text me back or call me back. I can understand that. Tell me a little bit about the driving.
Oh,
So
driving.
is this something you knew you wanted to do from a young age?
Honestly, if I'm being honest, I never thought I would be able to drive.
Really?
Until I met the guy named Kent Crenshaw. Because he had hand controls. He was the first person to introduce me to hand controls. So I was 15 when I saw those. So when he told me I could drive, I was like, what? For real? I ain't gotta have nobody take me back and forth? For real? I ain't gotta wait on nobody? So driving just opened up a whole new world. Like it did the same thing that working out and working did, but it amplified it 10 times more, because now I have my own freedom to go back and forth. I'm not trapped in a house. When you don't have a vehicle and you have to wait on somebody, it makes you feel like you're a prison inside your own life. Because if you don't have somebody coming to pick you up, you're stuck.
I hear that a lot from individuals that are trying to rely on bus routes or, you know, private things, that it's a lot of money and the bus routes are never predictable.
No, and then on top of that, they tell you, one time, it used to be where you had to call in for the bus 2 weeks ahead. And that was just too much. Driving, initially getting behind the wheel, I was excited. Like I couldn't wait, even though I had no clue what I was doing. I couldn't wait. But for me, driving was such a monumental thing, because although my parents didn't mind taking me back and forth, they still have their own life. and it's important for me to be aware that my parents have their own lives. They still have stuff that they have to do individually and together. So it was important. It was an important tool for me because, you know, one day they're not going to be here, and I'm going to have to be able to take care of myself, and I'm going to have to be able to get myself to these places, back and forth to these places. So
got to go to work, got to go food shopping.
yeah,
Those types of things, and the independence and the mentality that it gives you. I can just imagine your 15-year-old self, the first time you saw hand controls, your mind going, this is possible?
yeah,
And it's a totally different mindset.
yeah, and like he's paralyzed. He drives with his hands like this. So me thinking, see, I can do this. So me thinking, if he can drive with his hands stationary like this, is no reason why I can't drive.
I have a friend. Have you ever heard of Dr. Graham Sisson?
Yeah, I know Graham.
So Graham is a pretty cool guy. We've done a number of broadcasts. He just got a new car. I think it was a Challenger or something like that. And
Little
dude,
Challenger Mustangs.
yeah, he likes his cars and they are fast. I think he's got another fast one too. But that, you know, that ability to not have to rely on others for what a lot of people take for granted is going to work, going to the store, going to see a movie, you know, those types of things. Is an eye-opening experience for you. Is there anything else that comes to mind, eye-opening experience when it comes to like personal relationships?
Oh yeah. One in particular, like a lot of people think because you have a disability, you have to date somebody with a disability.
So I'll preface this is we haven't had a lot of conversations about kind of dating, you know, and being a young kid and relationships on Alabama Care. I think we should have more. I think it's something that maybe a lot of children are hesitant to talk about with their parents, especially when their parents are maybe more of a presence in their life, almost in a caregiving sense. And they really don't have people to talk to. So I'm going to enjoy this conversation we have.
Okay. Well, my experience, a lot of people think that just because you have a disability, you have to date somebody with a disability, kind of that two halves of the same coin kind of thing. That's false. It just depends on the person that you choose, because you can have a person with a disability who you think understands you because they got a disability, but really don't understand you, because it's not about understanding the physical, it's about understanding the mental and the emotional. So I may have a disability physically, but mentally and emotionally, I'm not compatible with you. I'm gonna be honest, I dated people with disability and people without disability. I have no preference. I don't look at disability, I look at that individual. For those helicopter parents, I think that's still the correct term.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, your child is gonna make mistakes. Your child is going to fall. You fail to get where you are. So allow your child that same courtesy. I know it's scary as a parent. I understand that because I have parents. I understand. But they're gonna fall. They're gonna fall when you're here, and they're gonna fall when you're gone. But while you're here, you could teach them how to pick themselves back up. The worst thing that you could do is try to hold your child and try to protect them from everything, because as much as parents we may like to, it's impossible. It's impossible. And you're gonna drive yourself ragged trying to protect them from everything. And you're gonna chase some good people out of their lives by doing it as well.
I heard a quote recently that was, you know, if your child is doing something that is a little bit dangerous, do not step in. Let them figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So you kind of have to let go a little bit. personal question. Are you thinking family in the future? You wanting kids?
Yes, I do. I do. Um, it's an interesting process. It's an interesting thought that I often have because I've seen people with cerebral palsy have kids. Uh, um, I'm just rating on the right individual. I don't believe in having kids with just anybody. I'm selective. Because when you're bringing a child into this world, is that serious business. Because now that human is dependent on you, and that it's dependent on the decisions that y'all make together, and it's dependent on the fact that y'all have to be able to make cohesive decisions together. So I do want kids. I do want a wife. I don't have to have a lot of money. I just want enough to be comfortable.
Hmm. I feel you on all fronts. I don't have any kids of my own right now. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that. I think you'd be a great dad just from your experiences and the way that you talk about life in general. And I hope and pray that you get that.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Lorenzo Brown?
you.
He runs
He
the
sound,
Disabled Center here in Birmingham.
he sound familiar. I bet I think I've seen him before.
Well, he
I
was
think,
at the Disability In conference, so you might have seen him there. But he, as a friend, he's done a number of broadcasts on Alabama Care. He's a father of three, I think. Sorry, Mr. Brown, if I'm saying three and it's four. But he's a great dad as well. And so I think he would be a good peer mentor if ever you were looking. He's a little bit older than you are. I think he's in his I'm not maybe he's in 40, something like that. He's gonna get mad if I'm way off.
okay.
Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about, you've been itching to do kind of content advocacy outreach in the past. What kind of stuff have you done on YouTube in the past?
um, Commercial fitness stuff. Like I shot a commercial for AUM for the Warhol Fit program. I shot a commercial for a little small metropolitan gym that used to be down the street from me. Um, I got some YouTube videos. Uh, I used to do I used to go Facebook Live with one of my old trainers all the time. Every time I would hit a new milestone, he would go Facebook Live and we would talk about the milestone and put it on Facebook, and people would comment. And to this day, people still ask me, "When you go put up some more videos? Like, you need to go put up some more videos." So it's really. I didn't think that it was touching people. I didn't think that people was looking. But you know the old saying, you never know who's looking until nobody else around, until you're not around. So I just I was real shocked and real touched by the fact that my videos was touching people and making people interested in working out.
Yeah, it sometimes feels like what we do isn't enough, that we should be doing more hands-on with families. But then I meet some people like at a conference and they're like, wait, I've seen you before. Or I've heard of Alabama Care. I watch your videos. And I'm like, thank you. Somebody watches.
Yeah.
You meet people that way, and it's really, really cool to be a part of. So you're not afraid to be in front of the camera. You've been on camera before, very outgoing. And one of the steps that we had together is kind of coming up with 3 ideas for 3 broadcasts, future broadcasts. And you went ahead and did that. So if you could kind of talk about what those ideas are.
One of my ideas was modified exercises for people who are physically impaired in the gym. My other one was adaptable clothing that you could wear that you'll be able to get over your AFOs for people who wear braces or have amputees. Who have prosthetics and stuff like that, because certain shoes can't wear, with your braces. I'm pretty sure it's probably the same with certain pains with people who have prosthetic legs, probably the same. So, just different little things like that. Cause it took me a while to get to know like what shoe would fit around my brace and what wouldn't. Like I had to do a lot of trial and error. So, and I think that's something that people need to know, especially young parents who have young kids with disabilities who just starting out for the first time. It'll make getting dressed in the morning a whole lot easier. My other one was, we just touched on it, personal relationships for people with disabilities, because a lot of people with disabilities may feel like they're socially awkward because they don't talk to nobody. Ways to get around being socially awkward. Also, my last one, which I thought was a personal good one, how to keep your composure when somebody offends you because they're ignorant to your disability in the real world or in the workplace.
I love that one as well. And I could probably benefit from hearing that because I've got sometimes a short stem, and if things don't go exactly how I want them to, I get frustrated, and then try to remove myself from the situation instead of maybe dealing with it and working through it with the other people. So I could probably learn a thing or two there. So I love all four of those, and I'm looking forward to scheduling those over the next few weeks. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, you and I, over the phone later this week.
Okay.
I want to talk, I heard this quote at the Disability Inc. conference. You said, "I take the dis out of disability." Talk a little bit about that and the mind frame.
The mind frame, well, I actually, the quote was given to me by the Shriners. I spoke at the 85th annual Shriners anniversary, and I was sitting right next to the very first ever Shriners patient, and that was phenomenal. But he taking the dis out of disability. Disability has such a negative connotation. When people think about disability, they tend to think about the worst possible scenario that they could think of. And it's not their fault. It's what the media portrays. It's what you see on TV. It's what you see on the internet. It's what you see when they show one of those hospital commercials. They never show the strong side of being disabled. They always show the weak and fragile side of being disabled. So when the quote was introduced to me and given to me, they was like, you take the dis out of disability. And I was like, huh. And it's basically like saying, turn your disability into an ability.
I love that. And I think you're right. The media does tend to focus on kind of the weaker side there. And that, for anybody that's not familiar and involved in the community kind of on a day-to-day basis, and that's all they see is a commercial like that, they're going to walk away thinking that. And then when they meet somebody in their local community, they're automatically going to assume everybody's like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the way you do it. We're, it's part of what we're trying to do here is raise awareness. We want some of these videos to go viral, get a couple 100,000 views so others can see, the strong side, as you said it.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Okay, we're kind of coming to a close here. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that maybe your younger version or somebody that's younger than you or parents could really benefit from hearing?
I'm gonna go with parents because it starts with the parents.
Okay.
All I can say for parents, especially new parents, if your child has a disability, don't shun them. Don't hide them. Don't coddle them. Treat them how you would want somebody to treat you. Because as we get old, we forget that golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. And we tend to think about self. Well, this is how I feel. But sometimes you got to take a step back and look at how your child feels. The child already has a lot going on that he's gonna have to deal with, or she's gonna have to deal with. So try to instead of being a helicopter mom, just be a helping hand. Sometimes a helping hand or a listening ear could go way farther.
Yeah, you gotta kind of let your kid do their own thing.
Yeah. Let them find their niche. Let them find what speaks to them. Because that's what
I was just gonna say, as you said, the parents, they fell when they were kids, when they were growing up. Everybody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Walker, I just want to say thank you for being with us here this afternoon. I'm looking forward to these future broadcasts. And I think this was a great introduction to the Alabama Care community, so they get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, what we'll do is, Clifton, if you'll stop the live broadcast and the recording. Zarius, stay on this call with me, though.
Okay.